there? Hmm? Alright, so I can't sleep, but let's just look real quick at when Mercury stations to go retrograde on August 23rd. In the wee hours if you're in the US. So Pallas Athena conjunct Mercury. And it's in this transformative quincunx with Chiron here. Just as Mars is in the transformative quincunx with the North Node in Aries, and in a grand Earth trine here with Uranus and Pluto, two outer planets. Also opposing Neptune, the other outer planet. So there's a lot of cyclical energies impacting the Martian energies. To me, this infers we're measuring cycles using time and space. So greater cycles, trans cycles, eternal memory, essentially. Deep spirit. The psyche, it's everything essentially. When you hit these outer planets, it's ringing very deep in the psyche. The cultivation of what had been is being brought to awareness through the here and now. Good boy, what you up to? So it's ancestral, it's karmic, it's dharmic, it's cultivation of the Martian energies, and it's the realization of the mind infused with the power of perception through the divinity of the wisdom of Pallas Athena. That we have been wounded in life. part of life is the cultivation through the wound. Right, Rio? That's your fur, man. That's your fur that I'm breathing in here. Right. We've also got Ceres here. This is just some symbolic reference. Ceres opposing Chiron. Between Libra and Aries. So there's a harvest happening with this Mercury Retrograde. If you want to further break it down, there's a realization of the Martian themes in life. Whether you delineate the self through the echo response to the world, you are part of organizations, belief systems, structures, things out there. You may begin to see where, there's a military-industrial complex. The world works based off of war, based off of military action, martial actions. Even though I live in a nice place, it's peaceful, martial law could break out. Any kind of martial expression could happen. A need for martial expression. And that's how it has always been. That's why there's peace, because there has been war, essentially. Otherwise, we wouldn't know what it was. There's been an entrainment in the psyche of humanity for a long time through these filters of expression, so that we can cultivate spirit through the womb. Doesn't mean that's how it always is or how it will be. Just means that that's what we're realizing coming out of. Now that's transpersonally thinking of the Mars. Personally, which is the way I generally look at things, because everything is yourself out there. It's realization where your passions have not been your own. They haven't been the authentic expression of who or what you are, what you represent, but more so of the process. And if you've ever ran a race, started on a project, worked your ass off, if you've ever been in the flow, you're in the moment. You're not thinking of the end. You're thinking of the here now, and you're moving on to the next phase. So we're getting an awareness here, and I sense it's from the Venus retrograde that just happened, and it's happening during this station of Mercury. She's about to station direct in a few days after this. She'll do so on Neptune's north node, 12 Leo. There's a realization happening about where we have compromised our integrity, our power, our passion for the process. And in life, part of the challenge of change, of becoming more authentic, is casting aside those delusions, those structures, the edifice of what had held you safely in that expression. addictions, your relationships, your affiliations, your expectations, obligations, all these things, but ultimately the wound. We've been working through the wound, you know. And you don't work with the wound directly for most of your life. It becomes the building of awareness. What have you been wearing, you know? You realize it with time. When you first realize it, you demonize it, you hate it, it's your enemy. Then you realize that it's a gift. So with all that said, we got Uranus here, you know. Trining. That's that grand earth trine. So Uranus, Prometheus, Sky Father, the father of Saturn. The one who transforms Saturn when Saturn becomes too fixed in its expression and starts to corrode, fall apart, and devour its own creations. It's a molting in spirit at the highest levels, and it comes through the deepest, most authentic expressions of life. It can be earthquakes, it can be Mother Nature, it can be cosmic type laws manifest through happenstance, through the world, through reality. But it also happens through you and your awareness. So this is going to happen regardless of whether or not you're aware of it, thinking of it, feeling into it. It's just when you've got the language, when you've broken down the ciphers, you can speak upon it, you can work with it. You can realize what you're doing is worth your time. You can realize, there are peaks and valleys, there's an ebb and flow, and there are cycles. And on those cycles, sometimes you are sleeping, sometimes you are woke. Don't let the world hijack words, meanings. Don't let all the fear, all the tension that the world is invoking within us be channeled into anger, into echo response. The world, it's always seeking meaning to turn reality into a static so that it may live in the kingdom of an eternal bliss. And I don't care how blissful something is, how great a place is, if you're there long enough, it becomes hell. You need change, you need growth, you need expansion, you need variety, you need the kind of unity that only diversity can bring to us. That's Uranus. Of course, Pluto, the transformation, soul's evolutionary intention. It's essentially a meaning for change. It can be transpersonal or personal, and it is both, actually. And Neptune is the dichotomy, the mystery, the potential realized but it's realized in a language that you can't express, you can't explain, you can't replicate. You can only try and emulate. And you discover that emulation is the process of learning the value of your authentic expression. During this, the Sun is coming into that opposition with Saturn, the anaretic degree of Leo, the testing, the trialing, the curing of the spirit of Leo right here. The revitalization of your will. It's an egoic construct which is being sown with new energy through realization. Moon opposing Jupiter at this time. I mean, it's going to be the station probably be gone a few hours prior to this. Maybe not. Yeah, a few hours prior. It's really in effect when it turns red. That's the secret. That's the key. The S has to turn red. There it goes. Boom. So transformation's always happening. You can be with it consciously, or you can just be with it. You've fallen into the trance of life. Sometimes we got to be both. It's no shame. But it's good when you can try and stand in the power of your awareness. When you can feel into your change and know that it's not a symptom of the psychosis of society. You don't need a pill, you don't need a therapy session, you don't need this or that. All you need is something to believe in, and it starts within you. Alright, that's all I wanted to say. I couldn't sleep, so thanks for listening, watching, and being.